What are some of the indications that we must, absolutely must, meaning that there is no other option? No other option. All the other options were exhausted, and there is no other option but to recommend extraction of a mandibular first molar of a 7-year-old child or mandibular first molars of a 7-year-old child. This is in regards to the video I posted last night. You can go back and watch that video. A 7-year-old who needed 2 root canals on her mandibular first molars, number 30 and number 19. So what are some of those indications that we must, absolutely must, there's no other option but to recommend extraction of a 7-year-old child's mandibular first molar or molars? We must. I emphasize on that, must, meaning that there's no other option. That's what we are, right? We recommend extraction only when there are no other options, no other choices for the patient but to extract, right? For various reasons. One reason being that's relevant to my case that I posted last night. It's relevant to that is there is so much decay. There is so much decay that once you clean out all the decay, there's not going to be anything left of the tooth. That's the indication that's most relevant to the case I posted last night. So that wasn't the case. That was not the case, right? If you look at the post-ops, you will see that we cleaned out all the decay. There was still plenty of tooth left. The decays were pretty severe, right? And I emphasized that in the video. There was a lot of decay, but there wasn't so much decay that by the time I cleaned out all the decay, there wasn't any tooth left. That was not the case. There was still plenty of tooth left, even though there was a lot of decay. But once I removed all that decay, there was still some amount of good tooth structure remaining. If there wasn't, I would not have done the root canal on these teeth. I would have, as I said, cleaned out all the decay, realized that there wasn't any tooth left, and I would have likely just temporized the tooth or teeth and let the parents know that they needed to be extracted. That was not the case, right? So that indication is gone. So one indication is severe decay. There's so much decay that by the time you clean out all the decay, there's nothing left of the tooth or teeth. And this was not the case with the 7-year-old patient, the case that I presented last night. So why would I recommend extraction? If that doesn't satisfy you and you still firmly believe that as soon as you see decay on a 7-year-old's mandibular first molar or molars, as soon as you see that, that's an indication for extraction, and then orthodontic movement of the second molar and then the third molar later on in the position of the first molar and the second molar, then you need to go back to dental school and you need to read up on your didactics and gain more knowledge. You shouldn't make a comment under my video. That wasn't the case. So why would I recommend extraction when there's still plenty tooth left? You're still not convinced? The other indication, and by the way, you maintain these first molars, lower first molars. These are natural space maintainers. Forget about the trauma, the mental, psychological trauma that extraction of a 7-year-old's first molar or molars, the trauma that this child has to endure, the parents have to endure. These are this child's permanent teeth. Forget about the trauma, psychological and mental trauma. Now you have to maintain the space. Now you have to involve an orthodontist. And now this child in the process will probably have to suffer more. But we maintain the teeth for this child. Again, if there is so much decay that by the time you clean out all the decay, there's nothing left of the tooth. I understand. Yeah, fine. Yes, we have to. But that was not the case with this patient. There was still plenty of tooth left. So why would I recommend extraction? Why would you recommend extraction? I'm the clinician. I'm the endodontist. I talked to the general dentist. I've talked to the parents. I have 23 years of experience. And you just write down, oh, these teeth should have been extracted under my post. It amazes me, baffles me that as soon as I post a case like that, just the 2 or 3 of you immediately write down, these teeth should have been extracted. Why? Why would I want to extract? Why would you want to extract a tooth that can be saved? You clean out the decay, and there's still tooth structure left, good tooth structure left, and you can still build the tooth up, and this patient can maintain these teeth in his or her mouth for years to come. Why would you recommend extraction? Aren't you a dentist? Didn't you go to dental school? Isn't the job of a dentist to maintain natural dentition of their patients for as long as possible? And then you so lazily, this is such a lazy comment that some of you make, that these teeth should have been extracted. Such a lazy comment. Yeah, any tooth can be extracted. But are you a dentist? Isn't your primary goal to maintain patients' natural dentition for as long as possible? Again, if there is so much decay that by the time you clean out all the decay, and you look clinically and there's nothing left of the tooth, that's fine. Or you don't even need to put a drill on the tooth. Some teeth, you can just look at them clinically and radiographically, and you can already see the result of you drilling, clean out the decay, and realizing there's nothing left of the tooth. Sometimes clinically and radiographically, you can determine that the tooth needs to be extracted. But that was not the case with my patient. Why would I recommend extraction? Why would you recommend extraction on a 7-year-old? Extract their permanent first molars, lower mandibular first molars. It's such a lazy comment that some of you guys make, that, oh, they should have been extracted. Such a lazy comment. That reminds me of the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you know very little, your confidence level is very, very high, and you just open your mouth and stuff comes out. And that's really embarrassing. You should really reconsider making comments on cases that you really don't have much knowledge about. All right, so that's one that didn't apply to this patient because I cleaned out all the decay. There was a lot of decay, but I cleaned out all the decay. There was still good amount of tooth structure remaining, and I did the root canal, built the teeth up, and the patient came in with 2 bad teeth, left with 2 decently good teeth, functional teeth. And these teeth will act as natural space maintainers. So that's what I did. Patient's parents were very happy. The dentist was happy. I'm sure the orthodontist was happy. Didn't have to deal with the space maintainers. Patient is 7-year-old. Now, can you imagine if we extracted these teeth? If I recommended extraction, the pain and suffering that this patient had to go through, the 7-year-old patient losing their permanent first molars, the psychological damage, trauma that they had to endure, the parents had to endure, and then later on, the poor patient having to maintain the space, orthodontic involvement and all that stuff, missing probably school and all that. Again, sometimes you have to, but that wasn't the case with my patient, the patient that I presented. That wasn't the case. There was still plenty of tooth left. Decay was a lot, but once I removed all the decay, there was still plenty of good tooth structure remaining. If there wasn't, I wouldn't have done the root canal. I would have brought the parents back to the operatory, and I would have shown the parents the tooth or the teeth, letting them know that there's nothing left of these teeth. I cleaned out all the decay. There's nothing left, and I would recommend extraction. But that was not the case with this patient. Okay, so why would I recommend extraction? Why would you recommend extraction? You weren't there. Such a lazy comment that some of you guys make. Again, the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know, the more confident you are. And some of you really need to look into that characteristic of yours. The other thing is that the patient, they recommend that that mandibular first molar or molars of a child, if it cannot be saved, there's so much decay that by the time you clean out all decay, there's nothing left. They should be extracted. Ideally, the other thing is that they want the second molars to have come in also. That's another indication. The second molars, lower mandibular molars, ideally, if you want to extract the first molars, ideally you want the second molars to have come in. That was not the case with this patient. This patient's second molars, mandibular second molars, had not erupted yet. So that is also that criteria this patient did not meet. The other criteria is that ideally, again, patients' maxillary first molars, they don't want the maxillary first molars to have been erupted. If you are extracting a mandibular first molars, ideally the maxillary first molars, they don't want that to have been erupted. That was not the case. This patient had her maxillary first molar already erupted. Here, take a look. And the same with the right side. Let me show you the lower right side. You can see the second molar is not erupted. Mandibular second molar is not erupted yet. And you can see, so that she didn't fulfill that criteria. And the maxillary first molars already erupted. And she did not meet that criteria either. And here's the lower left, as you can see. The mandibular second molar is not erupted. So she didn't fulfill that criteria to extract the mandibular first molar. And the maxillary first molar has already been erupted. And she didn't meet that criteria. as I said, you consider extracting the mandibular first molar when the mandibular second molar is already erupted and the maxillary first molar is not erupted. And that was not the case with this patient. And again, you can see how much tooth structure remaining. And same with the mandibular first molar. You can see good amount of tooth structure remains. And if you look post-operatively, after the root canal, you can see that there's good amount of tooth structure remains. We did the permanent buildup for this patient also. This is the mandibular first molar after endo. Good amount of tooth structure remains. And here as well, you can see good amount of tooth structure remaining. So these teeth, if they ever need to be extracted, that's fine. By then, the second molar is already erupted. This patient is more mature. If these teeth, the mandibular first molars, at some point need to be extracted, the patient is more mature. Maybe it's 5, 6, 7 years down the road. In the future, the patient is more mature, mentally can handle extractions of her mandibular first molars. The maxillary, the mandibular second molars have already been erupted. And now we can involve the orthodontist, and the orthodontist can get involved and what have you. Again, it's such a lazy comment that some of you guys made. Oh, these teeth should have been extracted. Showing everyone how little you know. How little you know. And you just open your mouth and write a comment and let the whole world see it. Dunning-Kruger effect. I hope I was able to teach you something, things that you should have learned in dental school, and then if you're a practicing dentist. But really, work on yourself, read. Knowledge is power. If you know a little bit, that's really dangerous. If you know a little bit, your confidence level is really high, but you know very little. Dunning-Kruger effect. Work on that. And stop making comments, like lazy comments, like extraction. Oh, they should have been extracted. These are such a lazy comment when you don't know anything about the science, about my conversation with the patient's parents prior to, doing root canals on these teeth and building them up permanently and what have you. I just make such a lazy comment. All right. So I hope I was able to teach some of you guys a little something. You really work on yourself, Dunning-Kruger effect. And when I post something, my job is not to convince you of why I did it. My job is to open your eyes. And then the rest, don't make a comment on my post unless you know the science, unless you know the whole picture. My job is, when I post a video, my job is for you to trigger you here and for you to go and read up. My job is not, I shouldn't spend so much time explaining myself and then showing you stuff. I mean, I do it a lot of times, but my job is to light a flame under you, so that you go out there and you start studying and reading, and reading books, textbooks, and scientific articles, and talking to other people, orthodontists and what have you. That's what I want. And stop making lazy comments under my post. It's so lazy, so unbecoming.